Grandma left me a rusty key in her will, while my older brother walked away with millions of dollars. At first, I thought it was a cruel joke. But 3 weeks later, I discovered what that key actually opened. And trust me, nobody in my family saw it coming. Before I tell you what happened, let me ask you something. If someone left you an old rusty key while everyone else inherited money, would you keep it, or throw it away? Because this guy almost threw it away. I spent hours searching through Reddit looking for stories that actually felt real, and this one immediately caught my attention. At first, it feels unfair. Then it becomes a mystery. And by the end, you'll understand why his grandmother may have known her family better than anyone else. Here's what happened. My grandmother was the heart of our family. Every holiday happened at her house. Every birthday. Every Christmas. Every Thanksgiving. She always had a way of making everyone feel welcome. At least that's what I thought. Growing up, there were 2 versions of success in my family. Then there was my older brother, Daniel. Straight A student. College athlete. Successful businessman. The guy everyone bragged about. And then there was me. Average grades. Average job. Average life. Nobody disliked me. But nobody talked about me either. At family gatherings, conversations always seemed to circle back to Daniel. His promotions. His investments. His new house. His new car. I learned a long time ago what it felt like to stand in someone's shadow. The strange thing was that Grandma never treated me differently. Whenever she saw me, she'd ask about my life. Actually listen. Remember details. Small details nobody else remembered. That's why what happened next hurt so much. A few months after Grandma passed away, the family gathered for the reading of her will. The lawyer began dividing everything. Aunts received jewelry. Uncles received collectibles. Family friends received keepsakes. Then came the big assets. The business. The investments. The properties. The accounts. Almost all of it went to Daniel. Millions of dollars. Just like that. Nobody seemed surprised. Honestly, neither was I. Then the lawyer announced one final inheritance. My inheritance. He opened a small box and placed an old rusty key on the table. The room looked confused. So did I. Then he handed me a note. It contained only 7 words. You'll understand when the time is right. That was it. No explanation. No instructions. Nothing. Just a rusty key. I left feeling embarrassed. Part of me wondered if Grandma had forgotten to update the will. Part of me wondered if this was some strange joke. For the next 3 weeks, the key sat inside a kitchen drawer. Until one rainy Saturday. I found myself staring at it again. And something bothered me. Grandma wasn't the kind of person who did random things. Everything she did had a reason. So instead of throwing it away, I drove to her old house. The property hadn't sold yet. Daniel was busy dealing with financial paperwork and barely visited. The place felt frozen in time. Her favorite chair still sat by the window. The old clock still ticked. For a moment it felt like she'd walk into the room at any second. I spent hours searching. Drawers. Cabinets. Closets. Nothing. Then I remembered something. When I was 12, Grandma once told me there was a secret hiding place in the house. At the time I thought she was joking. But suddenly it didn't feel like a joke anymore. I went upstairs. Into the attic. The same dusty attic I'd explored as a kid. Most of it was junk. Old boxes. Holiday decorations. Broken furniture. Then I noticed something strange. One floorboard looked newer than the others. My heart started racing. I pulled it up. Underneath was a small metal chest. Locked. For the first time, I looked at the key and realized. This might actually be what it was for. My hands shook as I inserted it. The lock clicked. Inside wasn't gold. Or cash. Or diamonds. Just letters. Dozens of letters. Old photographs. And another key. A much newer key. Taped to the top letter was a note. If you're reading this, someone betrayed me. I froze. What did that even mean? I sat down and started reading. The letters were written by Grandma. Some were years old. Others were recent. At first they seemed harmless. Thoughts about family. Memories. Stories from her life. Then I reached the newer entries. And everything changed. Grandma had started noticing money disappearing. Small amounts at first. Then larger amounts. She never told anyone. Instead, she quietly kept records. Dates. Transactions. Withdrawals. Names. She suspected someone close to her. Someone she trusted. But she wanted proof. The further I read, the more nervous I became. Because one name kept appearing. Daniel. At first I refused to believe it. There had to be another explanation. Daniel already had money. Why would he steal from Grandma? Then I found the final letter. It explained the second key. The newer key belonged to a safety deposit box at a local bank. The next morning I went there. The bank employee opened the box. And suddenly everything made sense. Inside were account statements. Bank records. Signed documents. And a thick journal. Grandma had spent years documenting everything. Every suspicious withdrawal. Every missing dollar. Every conversation. Every excuse. Page after page. Year after year. There was no doubt anymore. Daniel had been quietly taking money from her accounts for years. Not millions at once. Just enough that nobody would notice. Except Grandma did notice. She noticed everything. What shocked me most wasn't the evidence. It was the reason she never confronted him. The answer was inside the journal. She hoped he would stop. She hoped he would come clean. She hoped he would choose honesty. But he never did. A few weeks later, things exploded. The estate lawyers reviewed the evidence. Daniel denied everything. Then blamed accounting mistakes. Then blamed the bank. Then blamed everyone except himself. But the records were overwhelming. Eventually the truth came out. The inheritance he received had been calculated before the fraud was discovered. The courts got involved. The estate was re-evaluated. Much of what Daniel inherited was frozen during the investigation. Family members who once defended him stopped returning his calls. Everything he spent years building collapsed. And honestly, that's not the part one remember most. The thing I remember most was the final letter. The one Grandma wrote specifically for me. I read it alone in my apartment. It said, "If you've reached this letter, then you've already discovered the truth. I know you're wondering why I gave you the key instead of giving you answers. The answer is simple. Money reveals character. Truth reveals character too. I already knew who Daniel was. What I wanted to know was who you would become when you found out. Would you use this for revenge? Would you use it for greed? Or would you do the right thing? I didn't leave you the key because I trusted you to find money. I left you the key because I trusted you with the truth. I must have read that letter 10 times. For my entire life, I thought Grandma believed in Daniel more than she believed in me. I was wrong. She trusted me with the one thing that mattered most. Not money. Not property. Not investments. Trust. And that's something worth more than any inheritance." Thousands of people on Reddit debated whether Grandma made the right decision. Some thought she should have exposed Daniel sooner. Others thought she handled it perfectly. But almost everyone agreed on one thing. The real inheritance was never the fortune. It was the faith she placed in the one person she believed would do the right thing. And honestly, I think that's what makes this story unforgettable. Because sometimes the most valuable thing someone leaves behind isn't money. It's proof that they believed in you all along. So now I'm curious. If you were given the truth about someone you loved, would you reveal it? Or would you keep it buried forever?